In this video, I'm going to show you all of the augmentations in the Ascent. In total, there are 22 augmentations in the Ascent. These augmentations are acquired in different ways, such as random drops, mission rewards, and vendor purchases. In the description, I provided a link that points to a wiki, which is a great resource to figure out how to acquire each of these augmentations. For newer players, check out my other video, which I've linked to in the description. In that video, I explain the mechanics of the augmentation system and how attributes, skills, and armor all influence augmentations. I'll go through the augmentations based on their order in the augmentations menu. I'll rate each augmentation in terms of cooldown, energy consumption, and effectiveness. First up is Joy Run Dragon. Joy Run Dragon is a stasis effect. Stasis freezes an enemy, and if you can fill up their blue bar, it causes them to explode. Joy Run Dragon is one of the more effective stasis augmentations. If you can line up a few enemies before firing it, you can affect multiple enemies. Next up is Life Transfer, which is a healing augmentation. Life Transfer creates a wide dome, and any enemy caught within the dome is marked. Marked enemies that take damage will heal you. This augmentation is somewhat effective at healing, but the healing is offset by the fact that you have to put yourself in danger by surrounding yourself with enemies. Looten is one of the weakest augmentations in the game. It deploys a drone that picks up loot for you. Considering you have only 2 augmentations to pick, I can't recommend this one. Mono Defender deploys a large shielded bot that gets into close quarters against your enemies. It does a really great job at drawing their fire. This augmentation is especially good for single players. Mono Ranger deploys a bot that is armed with a rifle. The bot will fight at range for you, giving you the opportunity to flank opponents. Even though this augmentation has a long cooldown and consumes a lot of energy, it's very effective. Mono Scrapper deploys a small bot that fights in close quarters. I'd recommend Mono Defender over Mono Scrapper, plus Mono Scrapper consumes more energy than Mono Defender. Ratbite creates a wide dome, and any enemy caught within the dome is marked. Marked enemies turn on other enemies and fight for you. Conceptually, it's an interesting augmentation, but for it to be most useful, you have to put yourself in danger to hack the most amount of enemies. Also, this augmentation has the longest cooldown in the game, and it also consumes the most energy. Shield dronettes surround you with a shield. However, the shield lasts a fairly short time, as demonstrated here. Luckily, this augmentation has a fast cooldown, so you can use it often. It's handy for extra protection if you find yourself swarmed. However, its short duration is a real drawback. The Spider Bot's augmentation deploys multiple bots which seek out targets and detonate. This is a handy augmentation which I acquired early in the game and found myself using well into the campaign. Volatile creates a wide dome, and any enemy caught within the dome is marked. Marked enemies explode on death, causing collateral damage to nearby enemies. Like other dome-based augmentations, you have to put yourself in danger to get the most out of Volatile. In this case, I don't think the risk is worth it. Biometric Timestamp is a healing augmentation with a very interesting twist. When you activate it, it records your health level and starts a countdown meter beside your character. When the timer ends, your health is restored to the level that was recorded when you activated the augmentation. It's really handy for restoring your health if you anticipate a challenging battle. If you can manage the timing, it's one of the handier health augmentations. IO Converter is a severely underrated augmentation, probably because of its unhelpful description, which says weapons, projectiles, and explosions now deal digital damage only. What the game doesn't tell you is that this augmentation does tons of damage to armored and mechanized enemies. Watch me battle these armored enemies. First I'll use my machine gun without the augmentation, then I'll back up, apply the augmentation, and melt the mechs. Overclock increases energy, regeneration, tactical charge, and reload speed. If you use your tactical ability often, or if you reload slow weapons like machine guns, consider this augmentation. In the following gameplay, I will deploy my auto turret so you can see its normal regeneration rate. Then I'll back up, deploy the augmentation, and re-engage the enemy so you can see how much faster my auto turret regenerates. Tentacle extends multiple tentacles from the ground around you. These tentacles grab nearby enemies and slam them to the ground, doing moderate damage. This is a close range augmentation, and its use is fairly limited to when you're surrounded. Also, its energy consumption is the second highest of any augmentation. Homing Mim locks on to nearby enemies and fires homing missiles. It auto-targets the enemies and has a good range. It's extremely effective against those pesky shielded enemies. Hydraulic Slam delivers a punch with moderate damage and propels enemies away from you. This augmentation is acquired early in the game. It has the fastest cooldown in the game and consumes very little energy. It's good for early to mid-game use, but not very effective beyond that. Lock on Fire empties the remainder of your clip with perfect accuracy and extra efficiency. Perhaps it's most effective with rifles and pistols, but with machine guns it's fairly useless and certainly does not seem to empty an entire huge clip. Neutron Beam fires a continuous energy beam which pierces armor and causes heavy damage. What the game doesn't explain is that you cannot change your position once the augmentation is activated. Also, because it can fire only waist high, the beam can easily get stuck on objects. It's powerful, but has pretty significant limitations. Hyperfocus creates a large bubble around you and slows down any incoming projectiles that enter the bubble. This augmentation is actually pretty handy for navigating frenzied encounters. Propulsion Leap allows you to launch into a group of enemies and land with a crash that causes moderate damage. This augmentation has one of the fastest cooldowns in the game and also consumes a small amount of energy. If you have a loadout or combat style that encourages close combat, this is a good augmentation for you. Razor dronettes surround you with a swarm of drones that damage enemies within range. It does very little damage and does not last very long. Stasis Stop allows you to stop the ground and any enemies in the immediate vicinity are suspended in the air and have stasis applied to them. I prefer the other stasis augmentation, Joy Run Dragon, because it can be launched from a distance while Stasis Stop requires you to be in close quarters. If you like the stasis effect, use stasis stomp until you acquire Joyrun Dragon. Here's a summary of the 22 augmentations ranked for my particular character and playstyle. Let me know in the comments which augmentations you like to use and which ones you think are best for a given playstyle.